I recently made a video about a certain teaching method that was jeopardizing students' comprehension outcomes in the classroom, and there were a lot of different types of responses, but one really took the cake. This is the outcome of making women the primary educators of our children for the last 50 years. Get men back in control of education. Literacy will not go back up until we do that. How real is this? First of all, I don't think men ever lost control of anything, really. It is true that teachers primarily are female, but if you look at policymakers, especially historically, the Board of Education, those have all been male. So, don't tell me that men didn't have enough power historically when we just crossed the 100-year anniversary of women's suffrage, women being able to vote. In order to blame us for the country's systemic problems, you do have to first put us in charge of that system. But I'd like to take on this statement empirically, philosophically, and also practically. Empirically, economists have explored this question to try to understand whether there are advantages to encouraging male teachers to enter the workforce. Questions such as, would a male teacher communicate more effectively with male students? Would they be good role models? Would it even help ameliorate certain gender stereotypes? There is what is called the TIMSS study, the Trends in International Mathematics and Science study, which tried to get at this question by assessing students' math and science scores. This study had the test scores linked to teacher gender and also student gender, and if this trend is real, then we should be seeing it on a global level in all countries and in all years. So they're doing this by country and by year, and they're finding that there aren't a lot of statistically significant results. There are some here and there for boys and male teachers or girls and female teachers, but the data cannot support this in the aggregate. And given the lack of evidence, quote, aggressive attempts to recruit teachers of a specific gender may lead to lower quality hires. In fact, what the study did highlight with great confidence instead was that teacher quality did make a huge impact on student test scores. More developed versus less developed countries. And this paper also drew a direct comparison or contrast to a previously published paper that got to the opposite outcome. So that paper was trying to show that yes, there is a statistically significant correlation. Quote, the data sets used in Dee's 2007 paper were collected in 1988, while the data sets used in this study were collected every 4 years from 1995 until 2007. Over the past 2 decades, there have been substantial changes in teacher characteristics in the US. This study points to the increase in the proportion of female teachers in STEM subjects such as science and math, and also the reduction in the gap of education levels between male and female teachers, saying, quote, in 1988, male teachers were more likely than female teachers to hold master's or other professional degrees. However, by 1995, the education level of female teachers became essentially identical to that of the male teachers. It's very interesting because you would think that for lower classes, the quality of the teacher wouldn't matter so much, but results show otherwise. Goldhaber and Brewer find that students matched with teachers with a specific degree, bachelor's or master's, in mathematics had greater achievement gains in mathematics. Studies using school-level data find a positive correlation between student achievement and teacher certification status or teacher scores on certification tests, which measure the teacher's subject matter knowledge. And there are more studies of this type. Either teachers with a deeper knowledge base are able to communicate the concepts more effectively, or they're able to translate their passion more effectively to motivate students to study. On the philosophical side, when I first started researching this video, I didn't want to be biased, so I typed into Google search, men should be teachers and not women. The first result, and actually the first 100 or so results, were about the book of Timothy from the Bible, so you know where this is gonna go. Quote, a woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. She must be silent. Either this philosophy that men should be teachers and not women, either it's coming from unabashed patriarchy and sexism, or alternatively, it is rooted in a literal and conservative interpretation of the Bible.
For it was Adam who was first created and then Eve. And it was not Adam who was deceived, but the woman being deceived fell into transgression.
Why can't women teach men? Godly women don't teach or exercise authority over men. Are women allowed to teach men or not? Answer: because women are not as theologically strong as men, i.e. they are prone to deception more than men, women shouldn't teach. Most of my education was in Catholic school that was run by nuns, so clearly they were bad nuns, or they hadn't read this part of the Bible. Maybe, apparently. Now, according to this one specific pastor on TikTok, this passage also states later in the book of Timothy that women will eventually be vindicated by bearing children.
Verse 15 undoes the whole doctrine. But women will be preserved through the bearing of children if they continue in faith and love and sanctity with self-restraint. Do women submit to men in general, or do wives submit to husbands? There is no general command in Scripture for women to submit to men just by virtue of their being a man and her virtue of being a woman.
People shouldn't be having children out of wedlock. Therefore, by proxy, we should only be interpreting this passage in the context of a wife and her husband. According to him, it's not meant to extrapolate that women shouldn't be teachers. However, because of how it is written in the Bible, you will have people who either take the Bible literally or take the very most conservative interpretation, and they would not agree with this pastor's view. But listen, I'm not here to argue against anyone's beliefs. One person believes one thing, the other person believes something else. One person has an opinion, the other person should shut up and get back to raising children. But for all of the men who are interested and also qualified to be teachers, I just want to tell them, now is your chance.
A decade ago, 20,000 new teachers a year in Pennsylvania. Now, just 5,000, a 75% drop.
Enrollment in teacher preparation programs has reached historic lows. It began to dip around 2010, but fell even further once the first members of Gen Z entered higher education a few years later. Members of Gen Z, who today range in age from 12 to 28, are frankly less interested in becoming teachers than previous generations. So why are they out on education? Researchers say Gen Z is interested in jobs that provide financial security, flexibility, and a sense of purpose. Some of those things are just at odds with a career in education.
The comments on this video, Only Anns says, I was an education major 2008 to 2010. I got into the classroom for student teaching, did the math on my student loans, teacher salaries, and saw all the after hours emotional/physical labor and changed majors. That user says, being a teacher nowadays forces you to live in poverty. Why would I pay $40K in loans per year for 4 years to trap myself in poverty? And Kay says, that and we watch teachers get assaulted verbally and physically without any repercussions. Why would I risk my life for that kind of connection when I can find it elsewhere in a safer space? You know, they say that motherhood is this big sacrifice that women make for their children. But teaching is a sacrifice that you make for other people's children. It's like if you worked a corporate job, you work on this project with so many hours and blood, sweat, tears, you're trying your hardest, and you just hand it off, and you never see that project ever again. There's no validation. It's not a lucrative career. You're not building wealth. You're just dedicating your time day in and day out to improve the outcomes of kids you might never see again in your life.
I'm about to make the biggest decision of my life. I've been teaching for 12 years. 12. And I'm feeling done. Just like many other teachers are feeling, I'm just taking a giant leap.
I wish they knew I love them dearly and I will miss our class family. I wish they knew I'll be here, their teacher forever. And you guys will always be my students. And I got you a little keychain.
This is something I don't think enough people talk about or show people, and that is the hard reality of being a first-year teacher. When I tell y'all that I don't even remember first semester, I'm not kidding. That is how stressed out I was every single day. I loved my kids, but I don't even remember first semester because it was so stressful. Every single day, if not every single day, then every other day, I would get in my car and I would sob after work. Because when you're starting, you do not know what's going on. You don't know what you're supposed to be doing. You feel like a failure every day. Like the analogy of the chicken with its head cut off, that is how you feel every single day.
Furthermore, the intrinsic problems that male teachers face are real.
Y'all notice y'all don't see a lot of men teaching in elementary schools. Do you know why that is? Let me tell you why. Last year when I was teaching kindergarten, there was this little girl on the monkey bars, right? She wanted me to help her across, so she expected me to hold on to her as she went across the monkey bars, but I wouldn't do it. And that student just stayed there hanging until another teacher came and helped her out. And the female teacher said, oh, he doesn't want to help you out because he's worried he may get in trouble, which, yes, that is the case. The stereotypes and the stigmas amongst male teachers in elementary schools is a big reason why you don't see many men in elementary schools, because oftentimes men who work in elementary schools are viewed as predators. That's why a lot of men will rather work with middle schoolers or high schoolers compared to elementary students, especially lower elementary, because lower elementary students, kindergarten through about third grade, they don't have a lot of independence, so the stuff you do with them is very hands-on.
There were a couple of interesting contributions on Quora as it relates to the subject, on the idea that men should be teachers and not women. The third one really stuck out to me, but the first two also weren't bad. Michael says, better isn't the right word. Teaching as a profession is very different based upon the age of the child. The younger the child, the more it is about just providing care, support, and direction. It's the very thing that the maternal instinct is all about. And I think that's fair. Women are very nurturing, very soft, very caring. Watching grown men hug children isn't going to give you the same vibe. It's not going to fly in the society in the same way. Christoph says, I'm a female teacher. I have noticed that students, mostly boys, respond better to male teachers. It may be this way because men have stronger voices and tend to use authority more so than a female teacher. It may have to do with what children are taught at home regarding male and females and how you should regard them. Male role models are super important, especially in underprivileged areas that are plagued by divorce and children growing up in fatherless homes. But finally, the third comment says, for the same reason that female engineers are often better than male engineers. In many societies, teaching is a female-coded occupation. That means that women are encouraged to enter it and males are discouraged from entering it. The few men that did enter it in spite of the social norms have a higher chance to have a very intense passion for teaching. They want to teach so badly they do it despite having to overcome obstacles. Female teachers might also have this passion, but they might also have gone into teaching because they went with the flow, picked the first occupation that occurred to them, because it has been presented to them as a legitimate option. People who just go for the path of least resistance and do what other people subtly expect of them often follow gender norms, and often perform worse than people who put a lot of thought into entering a profession and who pursued it with more drive and agency. So we have a lot of male engineers, but not that many female engineers. But among the male engineers, there will be a lot of uninspired ones. Likewise, there are a lot of female teachers and a few male teachers, but among the female teachers, there will be more uninspired ones. That was a long one, but honestly, I think he raised a really good point. Ultimately, keeping all else equal, a huge determinant of teacher quality is the desire of the teacher to be there. This is not a job that makes it easy for you to love what you do. And saying, hey man, get in there, be teachers, just because they have a different chromosome, a taller stature, a deeper voice, doesn't set them up for success. For every good male role model, you also have 10 fathers slamming their fists on the table because they didn't have the patience to walk their child through a math problem. Stay on it, my friends, and I'll see you in the next one.